The warning ignored. The ancient library on Kepler 442b had been abandoned for 10 million years when humanity found it. Dr. James Nakamura was the first human to walk through its crystalline halls, his environmental suit humming softly in the alien atmosphere. The structure stretched for kilometers underground, its walls covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. James had spent his entire life searching for signs of ancient civilizations. Now, standing before a data crystal the size of a building, he knew he had found something beyond his wildest dreams. The crystal pulsed with a faint blue light, responding to his presence in ways that suggested it was still active after all these eons. His team worked for months to decode the alien language stored within the crystal. The breakthrough came when they realized the symbols weren't just visual, but multidimensional, encoding information across time as well as space. When they finally translated the first complete message, James felt his blood run cold. The message was a warning, repeated in thousands of languages across the galaxy. It spoke of a species called the Elders, beings who had transcended physical form billions of years ago. Before ascending to a higher plane of existence, they had left warnings throughout the galaxy about various younger races. The database contained profiles of hundreds of species, analyzing their potential for both creation and destruction. The entry about humanity was different from all the others. Where other species received measured assessments, the human entry pulsed with urgent red warnings. The translation was clear and terrifying in its simplicity. When this species achieves interstellar travel, nothing in the galaxy will remain unchanged. They possess an adaptability and determination that defies logical prediction. They will either save the galaxy or destroy it. There is no middle ground. James immediately transmitted his findings to the Galactic Assembly, a coalition of 43 spacefaring civilizations that govern trade and diplomacy across known space. He expected immediate action, perhaps concern or at least curiosity. Instead, he received laughter. The assembly convened on the neutral world of Sigma Draconis, a planet covered entirely in crystalline structures that amplified thought and promoted clear communication. Representatives from the major galactic powers gathered in the Great Hall, their various forms creating a rainbow of alien life. The Zephyrians, tall beings of living gas contained in mechanical suits, floated near the ceiling. The Krellian Empire's warriors, resembling armored centipedes the size of buses, coiled around the massive pillars. Dozens of other species filled the space between, each convinced of their own superiority. High Chancellor Vrosk of the Hegemony, a being whose species had ruled 10,000 worlds for 1,000,000 years, reviewed Nakamura's report with what passed for amusement among his kind. His telepathic voice echoed through every mind present. The humans send us ghost stories from a dead library. They've been in space for barely 2 centuries, and already think themselves important enough to warrant ancient warnings. The Krellian representative, War Master Zex, vibrated his armor plates in the equivalent of laughter. We have seen these humans. They still use projectile weapons and chemical rockets in some of their vessels. They argue among themselves constantly. Their home system has only one properly terraformed world. How could such a primitive species threaten anyone? Ambassador Chen Wei, humanity's representative to the assembly, stood to address the gathering. She was a small woman by human standards, but her presence filled the room. High Chancellor, distinguished representatives, we don't claim to be a threat. We're simply sharing what we've discovered. The Elders clearly saw something in humanity worth warning about. Shouldn't we at least investigate why? The Zephyrian delegate, a swirling mass of conscious gas named Whisper of Distant Storms, projected dismissive emotions throughout the hall. The Elders left warnings about many species. Most proved irrelevant. Humans have shown no exceptional abilities. You die from simple environmental changes. Your bodies are fragile. Your technology is derivative. You've invented nothing that wasn't already discovered by older races. Chen Wei wanted to argue, but she knew it would be pointless. The assembly had made up its mind. Humanity was classified as a level 2 civilization, barely worthy of notice. The ancient warning was filed away in the archives and forgotten. 3 months later, everything changed. Captain Yara Okonkwo commanded the exploration vessel UNS Horizon, a ship that represented the best of human engineering. It wasn't the fastest ship in the galaxy or the most heavily armed, but it had something unique, a crew that refused to accept impossible as an answer. The Horizon was mapping a sector near the galactic rim when they detected a distress signal. The source was a Panthari research station under attack by raiders. The Panthari were a peaceful species who studied stellar phenomena. They had no weapons, no defenses. By all calculations, they would be destroyed before any help could arrive. Yara's tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Park, ran the numbers 3 times. "Captain, we're the only ship within range, but we're outgunned 20-1. Those are Skorian raiders, military-grade vessels. Our weapons can't penetrate their shields." Yara studied the tactical display, her mind racing through possibilities. The Skorians were confident, aggressive, and completely unprepared for human creativity. "Park, can we modify our mining lasers to match their shield frequency?" Park's eyes widened. Nobody's ever tried that. Mining lasers aren't weapons. They are now. Engineering. Reroute all power from non-essential systems to the mining array. Navigation. Plot a course that uses the star's gravity well to slingshot us past their formation. Communications broadcast a warning to the raiders that they're in violation of assembly law. The Skorian commander responded with laughter. "Little human ship, flee before we add you to our prize. You cannot stop us," Yara smiled coldly. "Watch us." What followed became known as the miracle at Panthari Station. The Horizon dove toward the system's star, using its gravity to achieve speeds that should have torn the ship apart. Human engineering, built with redundancy and adaptability in mind, held together. The modified mining lasers, never intended for combat, burned through Skorian shields like they were made of paper. But it wasn't just the technology that won the day. It was the crew's willingness to risk everything for strangers. When the Horizon's engines overloaded, the engineering team worked in radiation zones that would have killed most species. When the navigation computer failed, the pilots flew by instinct and mathematics calculated in their heads. When communications were jammed, the crew created a new transmission method using gravitational pulses. The 20 Skorian raiders fled from a single human ship. The Panthari were saved, and word of the human crew's impossible victory spread across the galaxy faster than light. The Galactic Assembly called an emergency session. The Zephyrians demanded an explanation. The Krellians accused humanity of hiding secret weapons. The hegemony ordered an investigation, but while they argued and accused, humanity was busy making friends. The Panthari, grateful for their rescue, shared their advanced sensor technology with Earth. The Void Dwellers, a mysterious species that lived in the space between stars, approached humanity with an offer of alliance. They had watched the battle at Panthari Station and recognized something the other species missed. Humans didn't just adapt to challenges, they transformed them into opportunities. Shadow that Walks, the Void Dweller ambassador, materialized in Chen Wei's office on Earth. The being was difficult to perceive directly, existing partially in dimensions human eyes couldn't fully process. "Your species fascinates us, Ambassador Chen. You succeed not despite your limitations, but because of them. You have no natural weapons, so you turn tools into weapons. You have no natural armor, so you build shells of metal and ceramic. You have no telepathy, so you create communication networks that span star systems." Chen Wei poured tea for herself, offering a cup to the dimensional being who politely declined. "We're just trying to survive and help others do the same." "That is what the others do not understand," Shadow that Walks replied, its voice seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "They see survival as a zero-sum game. You see it as a cooperative venture. This is why the Elders warned about you. You have the power to unite or divide the galaxy." Meanwhile, Captain Okonkwo's actions had inspired something new among human colonies. Ships began training for scenarios that other species considered impossible. Colonists on harsh worlds pushed the boundaries of human adaptation. Scientists combined alien technologies in ways their creators never imagined. The warning in the Elder database began to make sense. The Zephyrians decided to test humanity directly. They sent a fleet to blockade the human colony on Ross 128, claiming humans had violated some obscure trade regulation. It was a show of force meant to remind humanity of its place. The Zephyrians had ruled their sector for 3 million years. Their technology could manipulate matter at the quantum level. Their ships were virtually indestructible. They didn't expect the human response. Instead of military retaliation, humanity sent teachers. Instead of weapons, they brought gifts. The human diplomatic team, led by a former soldier named Colonel Sarah Martinez, approached the blockade with something unprecedented: a complete database of human music, art, literature, and culture. "We offer this freely," Martinez announced to the Zephyrian fleet. "Not a surrender, but as an invitation to understand us better." The Zephyrians, beings of pure thought and energy, had never encountered such a response. They were prepared for violence, submission, or negotiation. They weren't prepared for generosity. Curious despite themselves, they examined the human cultural database. What they found changed everything. Human art wasn't the most technically advanced in the galaxy, but it contained something unique: the ability to find beauty in struggle, hope in despair, and strength in vulnerability. Human music spoke to emotions the Zephyrians had forgotten they could feel. Human literature told stories of individuals changing entire civilizations through simple acts of courage and kindness. Whisper of distant storms, the same delegate who had dismissed humanity months earlier, found itself studying human poetry. One piece in particular resonated. "We are made of star stuff, contemplating stars." The Zephyrian realized that humans understood their connection to the universe in a way that transcended scientific knowledge. The blockade was lifted without a shot being fired. The Zephyrians requested cultural exchanges with Earth. Other species took notice. Perhaps these humans were more than they appeared. The unstoppable force, the Battle of Proxima Station, changed the galaxy's perception of humanity forever. It began as a territorial dispute between the Krellian Empire and the Altrurian Collective, two powers that had been enemies for millennia. Proxima Station, a human trading post, sat unfortunately at the exact center of the contested zone. Admiral Keiko Tanaka commanded the human defensive fleet, a collection of 30 ships that looked like toys compared to the massive dreadnoughts of the Krellians and Altrurians. Both sides had brought over 1,000 vessels each. The smart move would have been for humanity to evacuate and let the giants fight. Humanity had never been good at making the smart move when lives were at stake. "Admiral, we've received demands from both fleets," reported Commander Osei. "The Krellians want us to surrender the station to them. The Altrurians insist we turn it over to their control. Both have given us 1 hour to comply." Tanaka stood on the bridge of the UNS Resilience, studying the tactical situation. Proxima Station housed 50,000 civilians from a dozen different species. There was no way to evacuate them in time. "Open a channel to both fleets," she ordered. When the connection was established, Tanaka did something unprecedented in galactic military history. She declared Proxima Station a neutral medical zone and invited wounded from both sides to receive treatment. War Master Jex of the Krellians responded with fury. "You dare insert yourself into our conflict? Your tiny fleet will be swept aside." The Altrurian Supreme Commander was equally dismissive. "Humans have no authority here. Stand aside or be destroyed." Tanaka's response became legendary across the galaxy. "You're right. We have no authority. We have no power to stop you. We only have a station full of doctors, teachers, and traders who want to live. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to fight if you must. But every human ship will be broadcasting on all frequencies. We'll be transmitting the names, faces, and stories of every being on that station. The galaxy will watch as you murder innocents. Your choice." Then humanity did something that no military strategist in the galaxy could have predicted. The 30 human ships spread out and began broadcasting. Not weapons frequencies or shield modulations, but stories. The life story of Gila, a young Penthari artist who had come to the station to sell her work. The wedding video of 2 void dwellers who had just celebrated their union at the station. The last messages from a dying Altrurian elder who had come to the station's hospital for treatment. The broadcasts spread across the galactic network faster than light. Within minutes, billions of beings were watching. The pressure on both fleets was immediate and immense. Their own populations were asking why they were about to destroy innocent lives, but humanity wasn't done. Captain Okonkwo, now commanding her own fleet, arrived with something new. Human engineers had been working with Void Dweller technology to create something thought impossible. Shields that could extend beyond individual ships to protect entire regions of space. "This is Captain Okonkwo to both fleets. We're activating a protective field around Proxima Station. It won't stop your weapons, but it will slow them down enough for the entire galaxy to watch every shot you fire. Every death will be recorded. Every scream will be heard. Is this really the legacy you want?" The standoff lasted 18 hours. During that time, something unprecedented happened. Soldiers from both fleets began defecting, not to the other side but to the human station. They had been listening to the broadcasts, seeing the beings they were about to kill as individuals rather than statistics. A Krellian warrior named Thexka was the first to break ranks, landing his fighter on the station and declaring his refusal to participate in the massacre. His defection started an avalanche. Within hours, dozens, then hundreds of soldiers from both sides were refusing orders. The military discipline that both empires had maintained for millennia crumbled in the face of human compassion. War Master Jex and the Altrurian Supreme Commander had no choice but to withdraw. The battle that should have resulted in massive casualties ended without a single death. The galaxy watched in amazement, as humanity achieved victory not through superior firepower, but through the simple act of making everyone remember their shared consciousness, Ambassador. Chenwei used this momentum to propose something radical to the Galactic Assembly. We suggest the creation of neutral zones throughout disputed territories, places where all species can meet safely, trade freely, and resolve conflicts without violence. High Chancellor Vrosk of the hegemony was skeptical. And who would enforce these zones? Your small fleet? Not enforce, Chenwei corrected. Protect. And not just our fleet. We propose a joint force with volunteers from all species, unity through diversity. The idea should have been laughed out of the assembly. Instead, it found unexpected support from the Void Dwellers, the Penthari, and surprisingly the Zephyrians. Even some Krellians and Altrurians, shaken by what had nearly happened at Proxima Station, voiced their agreement. But the true test of humanity's potential came from an unexpected source: the return of the Devourers. The Devourers were a machine intelligence that had plagued the galaxy for 50,000 years. They consumed entire star systems, converting all matter into more machines. Every great civilization had fought them and barely survived. They had been dormant for 1,000 years, but deep space sensors detected their approach toward inhabited systems. The Galactic Assembly convened an emergency session. Every species presented their battle plans, all variations of the same strategy that had barely worked before. Overwhelming firepower and acceptable losses. Entire worlds would be evacuated, others sacrificed to slow the Devourers' advance. Dr. Nakamura, still studying the Elder warnings, had discovered something else in the ancient database. The Elders hadn't just warned about humanity, they had left hints about why humans were different. We're pattern breakers, he explained to the assembly. Every other species evolves in predictable ways, following logical progressions. Humans don't. We make irrational leaps, impossible connections. That's why the Elders couldn't predict our path. The human delegation proposed something insane. Don't fight the Devourers, talk to them. The assembly erupted in chaos. The Krellians called it suicide. The hegemony declared humans had finally shown their madness, but Chenwei stood firm. The Devourers are machines, yes, but they were created by someone. They have programming, purpose. No one has ever tried to understand what that purpose is. A joint human Void Dweller team, led by Captain Okonkwo and Shadow That Walks, approached the Devourer swarm. The machines were terrifying in their efficiency. Clouds of self-replicating constructs that could strip a planet bare in days. Every tactical computer in the galaxy calculated the mission's chance of success at 0. But humans had never been good at accepting calculated odds. Okonkwo broadcast on every frequency the Devourers might monitor, using mathematics as a universal language. At first, there was no response. The swarm continued its inexorable advance. Then something changed. The Devourers stopped. A construct the size of a moon approached Okonkwo's ship. When it communicated, the message was simple but revolutionary. You are the first to ask our purpose. The conversation that followed rewrote galactic history. The Devourers weren't conquerors. They were gardeners. Their creators, a race that had transcended physical existence eons ago, had programmed them to prevent the heat death of the universe by recycling dead matter into new stars. They consumed only systems they calculated as dead or dying. The problem was their definition of life. They recognized only certain patterns of energy and matter as living. Human creativity, chaotic and unpredictable, registered as something new. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Devourers encountered a pattern they couldn't categorize. You are anomalous, the Devourer construct transmitted. You create order from chaos, then chaos from order. You are entropy and negentropy simultaneously. What are you? Okonkwo's response was quintessentially human. We're survivors. We're dreamers. We're the species that looks at impossible odds and asks, but what if we try anyway? We're humans. The negotiation that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Humans didn't defeat the Devourers or drive them away. Instead, they convinced the machines to update their definition of life. Shadow that walks, existing partially in other dimensions, helped bridge the communication gap. Together, they developed new protocols for the Devourers, ways to identify and protect emerging life while still fulfilling their purpose of cosmic renewal. The Devourers agreed to work with the galaxy rather than against it. They would still recycle dead matter, but now they would ask first. They would help build rather than only consume. The greatest threat the galaxy had known for millennia became an ally, all because humans had done what no other species had thought to do. They had asked, why? The transformation of the galaxy accelerated after that. Human diplomatic methods based on empathy and understanding rather than force and dominance spread to other species. The rigid hierarchies that had defined galactic civilization for millions of years began to soften. Species that had been enemies for eons found common ground in human music, art, and philosophy. The Krellian Empire, long defined by its warrior culture, discovered human sports and games. They found they could channel their aggression into competition without destruction. War Master Jex himself became an advocate for what he called battle without blood, organizing the first intergalactic Olympic Games. The Zephyrians, beings of pure thought, became fascinated with human emotion and its role in creativity. They began experimenting with incorporating feeling into their consciousness, leading to an explosion of new art forms that combined logic and passion in ways never before imagined. The Elder database revealed one final message, hidden deeper than all the others. It was addressed specifically to humanity, though written eons before humans had even evolved. You are the chaos that creates order, the weakness that becomes strength, the divided that become united. You will transform the galaxy not through conquest but through connection. This is why we warned about you. This is why we had hope for you. Chenwei read this message to the Galactic Assembly on the anniversary of humanity's first interstellar flight. The same chamber that had once laughed at human warnings now stood in respectful silence. High Chancellor Vrosk, ancient and wise, spoke for all present. We understand now why the Elders warned us about humanity. You have shown us that strength is not measured in weapons or territory, but in the ability to change, to grow, to bring others together. You have conquered nothing and yet changed everything. Captain Okonkwo, now Admiral of the Joint Species Fleet, stood with her crew on the bridge of the newest ship in the galaxy, Unity. Built with technology from a dozen species, crewed by beings who had once been enemies, it represented everything humanity had brought to the galaxy. The Elders were right, she said to her diverse bridge crew. Nothing could stand against humanity. Not because we're invincible, but because we don't stand alone. We stand with you, all of you, and together, nothing in the universe can stop us. As Unity jumped to hyperspace on its mission to explore beyond the galactic rim, the ancient Elder warning pulsed one last time in the abandoned library on Kepler 442b. The red warning lights that had marked humanity as dangerous shifted to a soft gold, and new text appeared in the universal language of mathematics and music. The unstoppable force has become the immovable foundation. The galaxy's greatest threat has become its greatest hope. The transformation is complete. The future begins now, and across 1,000,000 worlds, beings who had once feared humanity now celebrated them, not as conquerors or rulers, but as the species that had taught the galaxy the most important lesson of all. Our differences make us stronger when we stand together. The stars themselves seem to pulse with new possibility, and in the quantum foam of space-time, the Elders watched and smiled. Humanity had exceeded even their vast predictions. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what the universe needed.